Hey guys, so this is Sean, and this video is going to be about I'm lost resources and reads. Things like blogs and apps, video people like vloggers, YouTubers, books, those sorts of things that I have found useful in my craft, and that I think would be useful for beginners to just have some resources to get started, because I find that once you get started, you can sort of one resource will lead you to another, and so all you really need is to get started, and the rest will speak for itself. So I'm going to start with the blog that I am subscribed to, thetravelingwitch.com. And I'm going to try and link it in the description. So, go ahead and look down in the description if you want to go to that site and see what they're all about. But they're really good about just giving a concise, I don't want to say DIY, because it's a bit different than that, but they know their stuff, and they know how to relay the information in a way that an average person can understand. Quit that, child. It's not for you to chew on. Some books that I found useful, and I think would be useful to you. And I don't have all of them on hand. I used to have more, but I don't right now. So, the first one on the list is Judy Hall, The Crystal Bible. And this is 3 volumes. The first volume is a really good volume to get you started. It has all the stuff you would most commonly find. This is the only book that I have. I have not gone out and gotten the other one, simply because I wanted to expand my library before adding to my crystal resources. But this gives you the basics, and then I'm assuming the other 2 volumes are sort of just expanding on what this one says, and adding new crystals to the mix. And that is a really good. She's great. She sort of makes it really easy to, because in the front she has a contents, and it lists every crystal and the page number that you can go look it up, and then in the back there's a correspondence that's, if you're looking for something for truth, it will list all the page numbers that mention truth, similar to how you would find in a textbook. And it's just really simple to go through, and if you're doing a love spell, to go to the back and be like, I need love, and then what type of love, and then you will find all of the pages with love on it. And that makes it really easy to flip through and find what you're looking for without having to read every single summary. The next on my list is Encyclopedia of 5,000 Spells, the ultimate reference book for the magical arts. And this is by Judika Illes, I-L-L-E-S, Judika Not quite sure how to pronounce that, because I don't know. But this one is not so much. Some of them are a bit far-fetched. There are ones that are a bit gross. Some of them are for more advanced, and you have to use your imagination for a little bit. Like, one of the spells in here is werewolf transformation, and a lot of people run into the physical aspect being a problem, because obviously it's highly unlikely that you're going to turn into a werewolf. You probably packing some serious juice in that spell. But I think it's more of a mental transformation. But it also has things like stopping bedwetting, and basic love spells, amethyst headache remedy, lots of headache it just has something for everybody. And the reason it isn't what you might see in other books of spells is these come from historical accounts. So they're things that you would have seen in ancient Egypt, or in just times that aren't maybe as forward thinking as us. Also, it does talk a bit about how names could be different. If it says Eye of Newt, you're not supposed to go out and kill a newt to get its eye. It's actually an herb. I'm not sure which herb, but it tells you about that in here. And so it's just really interesting. Has some basic spell ingredients. It's just something to look through. Some of them are useful, some of them are yet less useful, but it teaches you a lot about basic candle spells, and you can get the feel for what a spell is historically supposed to look like. And find a lot of really useful things as well as not so useful things. But everybody likes, I think it's, even if it's not useful or something, you're not actually going to turn into a werewolf, but it's something you can read and mull over. It sort of makes you think about, how did they turn into a werewolf? Was it physical? On that note, a side note, here in Oklahoma where I live, there is a really, really old gravestone in a really old cemetery, and most of the time, what's written on engraved on the stone is, the name, the dates, and loving mother and sister, daughter, whatever. This stone had murdered by human wolves on it, and I have a picture somewhere, and it's literally, it was engraved, murdered by human wolves. And that was a little bit too long ago for them to be playing a prank on us, so I wonder, is it proof? My next tidbit is, or my next book is going to be The Complete Book of Correspondences by Sandra Kynes. And it's basically just a gentle, a basic overview of everything. And it presents everything as in sort of like a web. So everything has its own entry. For example, sage. Let me read it off to you real quick. Common sage is also known as garden sage, meadow sage. And it has all the proper things, but I just started after that. Solar system, Jupiter and Mercury. The zodiac signs, Aquarius, Pisces, Sagittarius, and Taurus. Day, Thursday. Celebrations, Mabon, Samhain. I do not know how to pronounce that one. And Yule. And then the rune Tur. So, if I were to say, go to the zodiac Aquarius. I have no idea where that is. Then, oh, there it is. I just flipped right to it. Look at that. Anyway, you could go down here and you could look at the herbs for, let me find the herbs. Herbs for Aquarius, and you'll find dandelion, foxglove, iris, lavender, peppermint, rosemary, and sage, and violet. So, it's sort of, everything connects to each other. And so you could, it's just, I find it really fun to, flip to a page. And then, I just flip to Jasper. And I'll see that the zodiac sign is Sagittarius. And so I'll flip to Sagittarius, and I might see, a crystal, an herb that it corresponds with. And that Sagittarius corresponds with. So I'll flip to that herb. And that herb might lead me to an animal. And that animal might lead me to a deity. And that deity might lead me back to a different crystal. And that crystal might lead me to an angel. or a demon, or some other entity. And I mean, it has things like happiness in here. It has compassion, control. It has deities. It has animals. It has plants, stones, concepts, elements. Has and it's not super in depth. Like, you're not going to find every single piece of information you can possibly find on Sage, or every single correspondence. But you're going to see a basic overview about each thing. And I think it's so helpful because some witches have spent a large amount of time sort of going through and making their own correspondences. And this book, while it's definitely not complete, it's complete as in it holds almost everything, but it's certainly not as in depth, and it will tell you that it's not as in depth. But it takes almost a huge portion of the work out of making correspondences that the other generations have had to do, and I think that's a really good thing to do, because correspondences are so important. How do you do a spell around the concept of sleep if you have no idea what corresponds with sleep? And so correspondences have so many uses, and this book will get you started in a big way on correspondences. Another book that I had, and I don't have it on hand to show you, but Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs. Now, I don't usually read Cunningham because I'm not Wiccan. You don't have to be Wiccan to read Cunningham. However, he does push a lot of Wicca. So sort of just filter out the Wicca stuff if you're not Wiccan. But Cunningham is his Encyclopedia of Herbs. I kind of wish it was more like the Judy Hall is, but it's definitely very good and something to get you started. YouTubers. So I use 3 YouTubers. Yes, even a YouTuber uses YouTubers. And I'm going to tell you who they are. And I don't know how to link them in the description. If I figure it out, I will link it below if you'll just look. One of them, the first one I use, is Molly Roberts, her Speak, and she also has a blog that if you watch her videos, she will probably link in the description as well. But yes, it's Molly Roberts, and I believe it's called, like, her blog and even her videos now are under Her Speak. HERSPEAK. Okay, and then I watch the Lady Grave Dancer, and she is more, she does not curse shame, if that makes sense. So while I don't curse shame either. In fact, there are instances where I would cast a curse, but with her, you're not going to just find the fluff. You're going to find the nitty gritty. She'll give you, some of the stuff, and she's very practical. She's fairly informal, like I am. A lot of, they have them, the fancy backgrounds and the fancy lights and cameras and stuff, but she does some of them at work and on a messy kitchen table and everything else. She's very down to earth, which I love, because I like to get advice from practical people who are actual people. If you've got all your stuff, all your shit together, we don't have anything to relate to. My life is a mess. I need advice from someone who has to deal with as much mess that I do. So she's very practical, very down to earth, very human. Someone everybody could probably find something to relate to about. And then there's those two. Molly Roberts, that I spoke of first, is more like a witchy art advisor, sort of. She's very art. She practices art magic, and so she sort of does a lot of artsy and prompts. I love prompts. So it's very, and she's a very soothing voice, very relaxing. I mean, I swear I could use her voice as a meditation tool. But so that's what more she is. Lady Gravedancer is a lot of, like I said, practical and down to earth and nitty gritty. Rhea Sage, I don't watch her all the time. I do watch her quite a bit, but not like all of her videos. But she sort of sits down and has just little chats. And I think that's very cool because she just sort of comes at you from a very just person-to-person kind of atmosphere. She tries really hard to interact with her audience, and she doesn't come off as like some high-up elder or priest. She's on her path, same as we are, and she just she's basically just having a chat, and I think that's so cool. She yeah, but I don't know, that's fun. And then of course me, if I could be so bold. Some apps that I find useful. Labyrinthos Academy is sort of an app academy where it goes in. It's focused on the Golden Thread Tarot, but what it does is basically it gives you the essential meanings of each card in 3 or 4 words, and then it quizzes you and teaches you until you have learned the cards. And I think I'm still learning. I'm by no means finished learning, but it helped me so much beginning to learn the cards to have just those little keywords. Get a lunar calendar for your phone, and especially if you do moon magic. I don't usually do moon magic. Not that I don't do moon magic, but it's not something I make a point to do. If anything, I would be more likely to do sun magic. I think moon magic is a little overdone, and I don't like doing things the same way as everybody else. I try to do sun magic because, everybody works with the feminine energy. Everybody. And I swear it's a bit much. And I just like to be different, and if you can't tell by my voice, I got plenty of feminine in me. Need a little bit more masculine. So, I don't know, the masculine energy sort of calls to me, but definitely, if you do any lunar workings, get a lunar calendar for your phone. I have one, and basically all it does is it tells you the moon phases and what, like it'll tell you the percentage, like it's, I think, waning something or other right now, and I don't know, but it'll tell you when it's the full moon and all this other stuff, and you can flip through and you can see exactly when the full moon will be and all that stuff. So I think that's really cool. Now there is a disclaimer for these next two. Do not take them at their word. The internet is full of misinformation. And the next two are going to be social media options for witchcraft. This means that people's opinions tie in greatly to the content. Someone may find one thing to have a completely different set of correspondences than anybody else, and it works for them, but that does not mean that it's going to work for you or anybody else. So, if you use these next two, verify with your own research. Pull out a book. And in fact, anything you get online, pull out a book. Pull out multiple books. Cross-check it against several other sites. Anything to verify what you see, because not everything is fact. So, these next two. Tumblr. You can look up witches' accounts. Excuse me, I am so sorry. Anyway, so Tumblr and Pinterest. Pinterest is another one, especially if you are arts and craftsy with your craft. It's great. But again, verify everything you see across multiple different sources. And then, of course, verify it in your own craft. Just because just because I use howlite as a calming stone rather than a truth stone, doesn't mean that the calming effect is going to work for you. Someone that finds amethyst a sleep stone may not find, the next person might not work that way. It doesn't make it not a sleep stone. But energies interact differently. Your energy is going to be very distinct. So not only do you check it against other sources, but check it against your own craft, because it might not work for you. Yeah, and then I do have this other book, and I have not used it much. I just got it, and I'm not entirely certain about it yet. Not because it's bad, but because it's wordy. I don't like wordy. But I am very interested in being able to sit down and try and get into this, because it has great information if I can just... I have a very short attention span for things that aren't story oriented. So I can sit down with, the inheritance cycle and read the entire 4 books, over... some of those books are like 800 pages. I can read the entire 4 books, in a few days. I sit down with a book like this, and it might take me a month or several months to get through it, because it's not a story. That's what I like about the Judy Hall and the Book of Correspondences is they're very concise, and you don't have to go through a whole bunch of words to get to what you're looking for. So I'm going to try and but I have heard rave reviews about it, and if you are interested in tarot at all, especially, specifically the Rider-Waite-Smith, this is the book for you. It is called The Complete Book of the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot. And it says, a journey through the history, meaning, and use of the world's most famous deck. Forward by Stuart R. Kaplan and by Sasha Graham. And it just goes through the traditional meanings of the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot. If that is the deck you are into, that is the book for you. And that is just one book. I've also heard great reviews about Kitchen Table Tarot, I think is what it's called. I'm not sure who it's by. I'm actually going to buy it soon. But apparently it's like very mundane, down-to-earth explanations without all the fluff in it. And I hate to say that word, because symbolism and the artistry of the words is very important. But for some people, they just need to know what it means. And they're not, I'm not always particularly good with deciphering the fluff. And so I just like to have something concise, which is why I like the Labyrinthos Academy and the Golden Tarot is, it just gives you concise, easy answers, easy interpretations that anybody can understand. Whereas some of the traditional writings, or even the writings in some of the books, such as my Phantasmagoria deck, is very ornate writings and draws a lot of comparisons and symbolism and all this. And while the book does have symbolism, it is more down-to-earth, things that we can understand without trying to decipher it through the ages. So you might look into that. I'm going to start shutting up now. Let's see. Upcoming, I have a video on infusing oils. I'm going to use those. I'm going to infuse them in one video and use those oils in another in a few weeks. And I'll tell you more about that in the video. Just stay tuned. I'm also going to have a video about an unboxing video for the Santa Muerta Tarot. If it ever gets here, whenever it gets here. and I'll record it, and upload it. But I'm very excited about that. It's Samhain. I have my ancestor altar set up here. Sort of my ancestor altar expanded, because I always have a little one here to honor my ancestors. But I have an expanded one up here that I'm going to work on, and I want to add the Santa Muerta to it because it is Day of the Santa Muerta theme, Day of the Dead, or Book of the Dead. I'm not sure, but it has the skull lady, and the Santa Muerta is the theme. Honoring your ancestors is huge, and that ties into Samhain. And I've always found, child, if you do not stop making a mess, I swear. I've always found the Mexican Day of the Dead theme to be very, I don't know, it's just beautiful. It really is. It sort of gives you, there's a sense of awe and beauty that it offers death. Santa Muerta is often depicted with being pregnant, so it's not just an end, it's also a beginning, and that ties in so well. But I will talk more about that when I unbox the deck, and I'm super excited. So I'm gonna sign off here for now. I will see y'all next week. All right, bye.